Hi, I'm Zabe Barnes, and my teacher, Starr Fuentes, learned from her teacher, Esperanza, the Mayan ways of accessing higher dimensions. And here she is telling us a little bit about those experiences. Starr, how did learning to work consciously with the higher dimensions change your life?
My life was changed when I learned to work with the higher dimensions. I remember being with Esperanza. It was a hot day in the Mexican land that we were together. The palms were swaying, and there was a beautiful little brook that ran for about 4 or 5 miles in the jungle. And we were talking about dimensions, and I was picturing little boxes and a honeycomb all together. And it seemed that my mind could only see and perceive the flat land aspect of it. And she stood up and I stood up, and she took me and we walked down the river, which was 5 to 6 feet deep on top of the water. The whole universe changed. Parts of my mind expanded. I fell into a place where how could I believe that it was only just flat land out there? And as I walked unbelievably on the top of the water, holding her hand, the dimensions appeared, going out for miles. When I looked inside of them, there were pockets within pockets like fractals. And I knew that my limited belief system, that I thought was so expansive, was now changed forever. Embracing the infinite still, to this day, is hard.
And can you also tell the story? Do you remember the first time you levitated, or one of the first times either you saw her do it or you did it?
When I was in Mexico with Esperanza, and I must have been there maybe about 2 months, and we were doing the kitchen morning stuff, and you have a huge pot for coffee on the fire. We would make soups in, and the pot was on the coffee and the fire was going, and Esperanza had some cups in her hand, and she maybe 8 or 10 cups in her hand, and she looked over there, and there was a bottle of milk. And there was a bottle of milk sitting on a log about 2.5 feet away. And she took one step forward and the cup started juggling. And I saw a bottle of milk come straight up in the air, move over, and I saw it sit down on the log where all the cups were going to be placed, where the coffee would be made ready for our small village. My eyes must have got as big as saucers. Esperanza looked at me, and you could see me just staring, probably with my mouth hanging open. And I realized that the power of the mind could move things. I realized I was going to stay there till I learned to move things with the power of the mind. Absolutely what I thought at that moment was crazy. I thought about moving tumors out of people. I thought about moving disease out of people. I thought about moving pollutions out of Lake Erie. I thought about many global things. Little did I know that less than 10 years after I left, that I would be moving tumors out of body with the help of the dimensions that I learned from Esperanza.
Expanding into the dimensions has been a step-by-step process. And the first time I witnessed somebody do something that I thought was impossible, just being able to see it opened me to some of those higher dimensions as I watched a friend teleport sand into his hand and seashells into his hand. It planted in me the possibility maybe I could do that too. And we practiced, and we practiced, and we practiced. And with the practicing came a deepening, going deeper, deeper, deeper into the dimensions, at the same time going higher and higher and higher. And sometimes when you focus so much on something, it's harder to do it than when you're not trying quite so hard. So I didn't have the huge breakthrough. Had little breakthroughs along the way, yes, but the huge breakthrough came for me when I was in a hotel room in India. And I thought that I might consider practicing teleportation after I finished unpacking, when all of a sudden something green streaked through the air, landed on the floor. I went across the room, looked to see what it was, and it was the little green doll that I had been given by my teacher Starr to practice teleportation with. That little green doll had been in my car in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And all of a sudden, it was there with me in the hotel room in India. And in that moment, I really knew, not just from what I had witnessed, but the fact that I experienced it, that this veil of illusion that we see every day, that there's so much more beyond it, that there are things possible beyond what is the appearance. Starr, could you share how learning to access higher dimensions has changed the lives of students that you have worked with?
So the mind is a very tender place, and many people make decisions on only the possibility they see. One person came to me to learn dimensions, and he's about 40-some years old, and he thought it was impossible for him to have little children and for him to have a wife. After he proceeded to learn dimensions with me, he had a wife and little children, and this day, right now, his children are in my daycare at my church. There are women who were deathly afraid of water, would only put their toe into the water. And by the time they had finished learning dimensions, they were swimming in the ocean. There were people who feared that their ideas would be ripped off, so they never manifested on them. Oh, it's too good of idea. If I tell anybody, they'll steal it, and they're the ones going to make all the money on it. And after they studied dimensions with me, they manifested their idea, and they're making all the money on it. Dimensions provide you with consciousness and choices that your mind, your body could not expand into before you started studying them.
In expanding into the dimensions, in deepening into the dimensions, one of the best benefits that I experienced and that I've also witnessed others experience is the expansion of the third eye energies. That even people who begin working with dimensions already are working with their third eye energies. Maybe they're already doing psychic readings for people, or maybe they're doing healing sessions where messages are coming through. But there's something about working with the higher dimensions and going higher and higher and deeper that expands the knowing, the inner knowing, multiple levels. So for anyone who is a teacher, a healer, a spiritual teacher, a spiritual healer, going into these dimensions expands the work, deepens the work, strengthens the work, takes it to levels that you never thought possible. The dimensions of reality blown wide open to possibility for miracles. Can you talk about the further evolution of the planet, planetary God form work, and where you see all of us going in relation to the dimension?
The dimensions reside on this planet in very, very, very small pockets. Once you're shown a dimension, nobody can ever take it away from you. The more people that learn dimensions, the stronger the dimensions get. Some people learn dimensions and they're like popcorn, and some of them pop way before the heat gets there. Right at the beginning, you put the bag in the microwave and there's one popping and you're going, that didn't even get hot. And some of them take a long time, the full 2 minutes. People are like that with dimensions. But for the global consciousness, the more dimensions that are taught out there, the bigger the capacity as humans do we have to touch places and spaces in our own life, in our own DNA, and in the galactic DNA. What would the world be like if you were paid exactly for the amount of energy you put in? What would the world be like if things could be teleported instantly from one place to another at a basic cost that would be minimal to all beings and at a zero cost to the pollution of the planet? How evolved can human get? I believe that we're a science fiction story waiting to happen. I believe that Jules Verne believed that we were a science fiction story waiting to happen with submarines and helicopters. I believe once you access the dimension, and just like the 100th monkey, the dimensions become present on the planet, that we will be able to expand the abilities of our energies, to use the dimensions to benefit ourselves, to benefit mankind, to benefit the planet, and extend ourselves into the galactic realms.
In my time with Starr, I was very aware that I was among the first people on the planet at this exciting time on the planet that is all about acceleration and ascension. I was very aware that I was in a small group of people who consciously had learned how to access these high dimensions where we can move objects from one place to another, where we can move ourselves from one place to another, where water suddenly becomes hard under our hands. The consistency of matter completely and totally changes, where things that are heavy now can float in the air. I was aware that I was one of the first on the planet doing this work at this time, and the honor that comes with knowing that I got to help hold that energy. Starr got to help hold that energy. The students that follow get to help hold that energy, and the more of us who can hold that, hold those dimensions, tap into those dimensions, the easier it gets for everyone else. And there's a beautiful humility that comes with this, of knowing that others may not ever know the contribution, and it doesn't matter. There's a sense inside of having helped with something that is so much a part of the big picture that it doesn't matter if anyone ever knows that I got to be part of it, that you got to be part of it. But understanding how important it is to hold this so that everyone can open up in this way. Starr and I invite you to join us for a free webinar in which we will share the 5 keys to accessing higher dimensions, along with a valuable process for opening up to a deeper awareness of them. This live webinar is Tuesday, April 14th at 1 p.m. Central Time. Call 501-609-0660 or email info@starfuentes.com to register. Space is limited. Sign up today. A recorded version of this event will also be made available for those unable to attend live.